How bad is the Epstein scandal for Donald Trump? Trump's law firm, Bondi and Patel LLP, had planned an offsite at J.D. Vance's house to game out their Epstein strategy. Then Vance and his staff denied any meeting was happening, only to relocate it to the White House. You know things are bad when you're covering up a meeting to discuss the cover-up. I don't know Team Trump's Epstein strategy, but I was at Trump's New York trial last year, and that trial gave a clear window into how Trump has handled past scandals. David Pecker, Trump's guy at the National Enquirer, laid it out. 1. Attack Trump's enemies. 2. Hype Trump with puff pieces. And 3. Catch and kill damaging stories about Trump. The National Enquirer had been running this protection racket for Trump for decades, since the 90s. Now that Trump's president again, he doesn't need the National Enquirer. He's got the Department of Justice. Here's how Trump could use his own Department of Justice to run Pecker's playbook to protect him from the Epstein scandal. Play number 1. Use Ghislaine Maxwell to smear President Trump's enemies. Pecker and Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, both testified how they weaponized the National Enquirer to attack Trump's opponents, with Trump's blessing. Remember those wild fake news headlines like Ted Cruz's father linked to JFK assassination and Hillary's hitman tells all? History has a habit of repeating itself. So when Ghislaine Maxwell met with Todd Blanche, Trump's former lawyer and now the number 2 at the Department of Justice, I'd bet money she handed over dirt on Democrats. Sydney Sweeney's jeans aren't the only thing that's blue. So is the political party of the people Maxwell name-dropped. Expect Bill Clinton to be public enemy number 1. Why? When asked about Epstein, Trump said, "You ought to be speaking about Bill Clinton." Right on cue, right-wing media is talking about Bill Clinton. Maxwell isn't stupid. She had to understand the assignment, and she had every incentive to deliver like her life depended on it, because it does. She is serving a 20-year jail sentence for sex trafficking, and she wants a get-out-of-jail-free card. She's not just singing for her supper, she's singing for her freedom. And that means singing like it's 1999. Todd Blanche isn't stupid either. The Epstein scandal is a political football, and Blanche isn't throwing a Hail Mary. It's a safe bet that Blanche didn't go into that meeting with Maxwell blind. It's standard for defense attorneys to give DOJ lawyers a preview of what a defendant may say. Do you think Blanche would agree to meet with Maxwell to discuss over 100 people for 9 hours and publicize that he's doing it if he didn't know Maxwell was going to spill some hot tea about Trump's political enemies? And that would explain why Blanche took that meeting himself. For context, it is unheard of for the number 2 at the Department of Justice to personally interview any defendant, let alone a convicted child sex trafficker. If this were about building an actual criminal case, the person leading that interview would have been Lara Pomerantz, the only prosecutor who secured Maxwell's conviction at trial, who is still at SDNY. She knows the evidence. She knows the victims. She knows how to assess whether Maxwell is telling the truth. Blanche doesn't. But of course, Maxwell isn't being used to make a case. She's unusable as a witness. She hasn't accepted responsibility for child sex trafficking. She claimed in a recent court filing that she is a scapegoat for Epstein's crimes. She has shown zero remorse to the victims. And she is a pathological liar. No serious prosecutor would ever build a case around her. Let's briefly recap Maxwell's lies. She lied under oath in a civil deposition when she said there was no sex trafficking operation. She lied in court when she told a judge she hadn't committed any crimes. She lied to pretrial services when she was arrested and said she had no assets, even though she said she had $22 million when she wanted bail. She lied at sentencing when she said she couldn't afford a $750,000 fine. This woman lies like she breathes. And that's who the DOJ's number 2 spent 9 hours with. This wasn't about discovering credible information about Epstein and his co-conspirators. If Blanche wanted that, he could have, wait for it, interviewed the victims. Maxwell wasn't there to serve justice. She was there to serve Donald Trump's political agenda. But Team Trump would have to flip the script on Maxwell. To make Maxwell believable, they would need for her to be seen as a victim. You are already seeing some right-wing media push this false narrative. I expect Maxwell's self-serving story to be that she too was abused by Epstein. And I expect Blanche will say he found her credible and point to her cooperation against Epstein's co-conspirators to justify moving her to a country club prison. Get ready. If they manage to sell that stinky turd to the public, a commutation or a pardon is next. Bottom line, I am bracing for DOJ to release the transcript of Maxwell's interview and for Republicans to follow up with a coordinated message and attack on the Democrats she named. Caroline Leavitt is about to go full Regina George, tossing out pages from Maxwell's burn book all over the damn briefing room. Play number 2. Use Maxwell to exonerate Trump. Remember, the National Enquirer didn't just attack Trump's opponents. They ran flattering stories about him too. Right now, Trump's biggest headache is that his name popped up multiple times in the Epstein files. Trump needs someone to exonerate him. Enter Maxwell. Per ABC News, Maxwell said nothing that would be harmful to Trump in her interview. Obviously, she also reportedly said that Trump had never done anything in her presence that would have caused concern. Oh, a convicted child sex trafficker wasn't concerned by Trump's actions? That's reassuring. You know things are bad if the President of the United States relies on a child sex predator as a character reference. Also, is that all she said? What about Epstein or others, what they may have told her about Trump? That would seem to be the better question. Look, believing Maxwell can exonerate Trump is as foolish as believing Trump enjoyed beauty pageants for the contestant interviews. If the mentions of Trump in the Epstein file weren't damaging, they'd already be public. Period. End of story. Play number 3. Catch and kill the Epstein file. Just like David Pecker was Trump's eyes and ears in the tabloids, the DOJ and FBI were Trump's eyes and ears in the Epstein file review. Pam Bondi had the FBI comb through the Epstein files for mentions of Trump. And apparently there were plenty. But catching the story is only half the battle. Killing it is the real goal, the exact opposite of the transparency Bondi promised. But how does Team Trump stop calls to release the Epstein file? Trump has suggested that his enemies could have easily put something in the files that's a phony. Of course, the DOJ and FBI's 2-page memo on the Epstein file review made zero mention of Democrats or phony evidence. And it makes no sense for Democrats to have put phony evidence in the files and not release them. But I wonder whether Team Trump will push this narrative that you can't trust the Epstein file created by this deep state-run DOJ. Whether they will blame the deep state DOJ for scapegoating Maxwell to shield powerful players like the Clintons and Democrats. Whether they try to convince the public that Maxwell's story is the truth, not what's in that phony Epstein file. That would be a huge gamble. Prosecutors, FBI agents, victims, and witnesses, they know the truth, and they could expose it. So what do you think? Will Trump turn the DOJ into the National Enquirer to protect himself and smear his enemies? Let me know what you think in the comments. All I can say is one thing's for sure. The Epstein scandal isn't going anywhere anytime soon, because inquiring minds want to know.